starting with the aforementioned exhortation to acquire sovereignty over the island of Singapore and found a colonial trading emporium. Before we do that, before we take any more steps, we need to bear a few points in mind. First, we have to bear in mind that Jacques drafted his proposal 2 full centuries before Raffles founded the British trading post on Singapore in 1819. Second, we have to cast entrenched habits of thinking aside that pre-Raffles Singapore was an abandoned, unseen, unrecognized place long forgotten by time. That is clearly not the case. Third, if Jacques was capable of devising a concrete and specific plan for the acquisition of sovereignty over Singapore Island and proposed the founding of a colonial trading emporium, then we have to concede that such a vision could not have been the unique brainchild of a man named Raffles. That has very serious consequences for our understanding of Singapore history over the long term, for it places important question marks behind the long-held view that Raffles was a specially gifted person with a special or unique vision for Singapore. Sure, both men had a common vision. The difference is Coutre had a vision and relied on someone else to execute it. Raffles did it with the help from some friends. Returning to what Jacques had to say about Singapore, why did he advise the King of Spain to acquire sovereignty over the island and found a colonial emporium? The answer is found in the second half of the sentence. Let me read it to you again. Your Majesty should become the lord of this port, which is one of the best that serves the East Indies. This is a powerful statement, for Jacques acknowledged that Singapore had a viable and a functioning port, and this port was one of the best that served all of the East Indies at that point in time. That is, at the end of the 16th and the beginning of the 17th century. But what about this word, best? What does it mean here? Certainly not the biggest port, not the busiest port, but we should probably understand the word best as a statement about Singapore's location. We may even want to stretch it a bit and claim that the term best refers to Singapore's unique and convenient location along the main shipping arteries of the day. That sounds very much like what Raffles also argued 200 years later. But wait, there's more. Singapore has a settlement, which Jacques named Shabandaria. Now that is without doubt named after the presence of a Shabandar, or portmaster, or harbor master on the island. Moreover, the island as a whole is named Isla de la Shabandaria Vieja, or the island of the old Shabandar's compound. One only has a harbor master if there's actually a harbor or a port. And as we have already seen, Jacques claimed that Singapore's port was one of the best that serves all of the East Indies. It fits together. But what else does he have to say? Let's take a closer look at his next major statement. A quote. We anchored in front of a place which is called Shabandaria, inhabited by Malays, subjects of the King of Johor, to whom the Salatus, who sailed these straits, also pay tribute. Now, the Salatus is a garbled rendition of the word Selatus, as the people of the Selat, the people of the Straits. So Jacques was aboard a vessel that had anchored off the settlement called Shabandaria, which would have presumably been just adjacent to the port of the harbor, which he claimed was one of the best in all of the Indies. Now the inhabitants of the settlements were Malays, and they paid tribute to the King of Johor. And he mentions separately the presence of people he called Salatus or Salatus, a collective term referring to different tribes of the Oranlat. And they, the Oranlat, sailed the straits and also paid tribute to the king of Europe. Now he has some quite interesting details to divulge about the people of the straits. And I will read this to you in full length, because it's very interesting. I quote, "Many fishermen live along these straits who are called Salatas. While pointing out the strait to us, they came aboard our ship with fresh fish and a lot of local fruits, which are very different from the ones that we have in Europe, and which they pick in the hills. Some are called durians. Others are called mangosteens, and others are called rambutan and guaducu. They're all very healthy and very tasty. They brought us many parasols made from palm leaves, which they call payones, so payo, corruption of the word, Malay word payo, and fresh water. They gave us everything in exchange for rice and old fabrics. They're very poor people. They live in sloops, that's a type of vessel that are 5 or 6 varas, 5 to 6 meters long, and at most are very narrow, made of thin, light planks. And on them they have their houses with wives and children, their dogs, their cats, even their hens with their chicks. They raise everything inside this little sloop, this little boat, which amazes me, because these boats are so narrow. And when they go fishing, the man sits on his prahu with the harpoon, and the wife and the children paddle very fast, and they do this very skillfully. Very old men can be found among them, these Oranlat people. I met some who said they were 100 years old. They're treacherous people. Boil down to, and what value are the writings of the Coutre to the present-day reader and researcher? I think the bottom line is this. We have here a set of materials that were written with a particular agenda in mind. Jacques was eager to demonstrate his innocence and loyalty. This also serves as the context, as well as the principal motive for writing his autobiography, as well as the memorials. The Vita, the autobiography, was written with an eye cast on future publication, to reach out to an interested readership. Jacques packaged and crafted his life story in a language that was readily accessible, Spanish and not Portuguese, and cast it in a literary form that was intended to appeal to the tastes of his prospective readers. That's hardly unusual, and hardly unexpected, and therefore hardly scandalous. We just need to bear in mind what the Vita represents, and the purpose its author intended it to serve. The memorials are very different. Sober, unadorned, often repetitive, in order to drive home important points and specific suggestions. This being as it may, the value of these writings to the readers and researchers of Southeast Asia is clear. The texts shed light on trading networks and material culture in South and Southeast Asia. They arguably contain the oldest eyewitness account of the Thai royal Kapila Yutia in its prime. It features the only Western eyewitness account of Siam's great king Narswan. Here in Singapore, we have the 17th century testimonies by Coutre that, without doubt, give us the most expansive account of Singapore and its surroundings in any language and dating from any period before the year 1800. You will agree with me that this book offers something very special to us readers and researchers today. And it is beyond a shade of doubt, at least in my mind, that the writings of Jacques de Coutre offer one of the most precious pieces in that vast puzzle that ultimately yields a more complete history of this island we call Singapore. Thank you for your attention, and if you want, I will say something about Malacca in the Q&A session. Thank you for your attention. The two brothers married two sisters. It would appear from the context that when Joseph arrived in Goa, we know that he was very ill, and he had this lovely young nurse who was taking care of him. He ultimately married her, but she had a younger sister. And she was then lined up for his younger brother. So the two brothers married two sisters. Not at the same time. Does that answer your question?
The popular account was that when Raffles came to Singapore, there was some of the anti-happening. But from what your account, it sounds like it was a thriving port. Had anything happening before the war?
That's the interesting thing. The answer to this is yes. There was depopulation taking place in the 18th century, largely as a result of the ongoing wars, and largely as a result of slave raiding. Who did the slave raiders from the eastern part of the archipelago? Where do they go and raid people? They get them from the coastal areas and from the upstream settlements because they're easy targets. So what do these people do? They move inland. So the coastal areas become completely depopulated. But that's part of the story that needs to be told.
Mr. Borschberg, I was just wondering, was this part of was Jacques de Coutre suggesting other settlements, or does this stand out as the one? I mean, did he say you should found a port here and a port here and a port here, or does this stand out as the one unique
the
case?
One, the only one that he says. He has some things to say about Malacca too, but he basically says Malacca's a total mess. The Portuguese have made a complete big breakfast of the place. The casados, this is the bit that I haven't read out to you. He complains that the casados are all related to one another and they're all in cahoots with one another. They have absolutely no interest in planting anything or farming or whatever, and like this they just rip everybody off. That's basically the underlying tone. And so he says, you know, Your Highness, you really need to intervene here. This is a mess.
So was there a sense of this being, in a sense, trying to create an anti-Malacca or some sort of anti-Portuguese counterpoint, or is that too much? Is that too much to say?
He's trying to say, you know, maybe you don't know what's really happening on the ground. Yeah, you people in Goa, you know, you're sitting there in your palaces and you know, getting fanned by your servants all the time, but you don't really know what's happening out on the ground in other parts. And you know, this is where I come in because I've been there and I know everything. That's sort of the underlying tone of his writings. I know it. I've been there. Yeah.
Most Singaporeans had and our history is centered around Raffles being the founder. Was there a conscious effort to prevent this account from being surfaced?
No, how could it? It was only discovered in the 1960s.
But even then, his Vita, was it only discovered in the 1960s as well?
Yeah, the entire dossier in Madrid was only found in the 1960s, so then nothing happened for a long time. And then they made a transcript, just a transcript, which means they went and they copied the words and they published it in Spanish. It's a terrible edition if you read my commentary to that. There were chunks of the text missing. I tried to not rail too much against the editors, but it was done by two Brazilianists. And so I didn't say this. Are we on record here? I didn't say this, but you know, if you start mixing up Calicut, the port of Calicut in the south of India, and you identify that as Calcutta, you're not actually demonstrating a very good command of the material. So, and there's lots of instances like this where they just, you know, where you just shrug your shoulder and pull your hair out and throw your hands in, and you say, my goodness, you know, what were they thinking when these are the editors? But yes, they have done some work.
It's interesting though, because 1960s and independence
there's no conspiracy. Yeah. Go ahead. I can hear you.
All right. So Singapore is known as Taman there, but you don't feel like Batu Sara, Bintan, real towns there. So why is Singapore called Taman there?
Because that's where the Shabana is. They do. They have a Shabana there, and they have one in Johor as well. So there are 3 Shabanas in total. There's another Shabana in Muar.
So what? So there's actually no other names for Singapore there.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, but that's in the cartography. How, but we get down back to the map that I had up here. This is a very interesting specimen. It's coming in my next project, but I thought I'd flash it anyway. This is how they would have seen it at the time. You have Singapore as part really of the riverine network. Yeah, Johor there at the top is actually Batu Sawar, the capital, and Kota Batu here would be Johor Lama. Huh? And you can recognize quite a few current names. Huh? Romania Point. This is the old strait. This would be between Sentosa and the mainland. The new strait goes on the other side. Balkan Mati is a linguistic corruption of Balakan Mati. Pulau Ular, and then E, which is probably an abbreviation for Ula, Island, das Cobras, Island of the Cobras. So they call it Island of the Cobras or Pulau Ular, Snake Island, huh? In Malay. Tanjung Bulos, Pulau Kukur, Pulau Pisang, and then of course all the wonderful names on the island of Singapore. Yeah? Changi is Tekong. Yeah? One of the islands here would have probably been where Coutre wanted to plant his fortress, one of the 3, so that it would look at what's going up and down the river. The second one would be here, and the third one would be here. Tanjung Rusa is the old name for Changi Point. Tanamera, almost the same as now. Sungai Bodo is Sungai Bedok. Obviously, another corruption, Tanjung Ru, Shabandria. Again, this is from somebody else. Godinho de Radio, 1615. Batu Kina is Batu China, which would be the old sail rock that they blasted away in the 19th century. And then the new and the old straits in Wakamati. Now this is a reconstruction. We don't know where the original is anymore. It used to belong to a private collector in Lisbon in the 1950s and 60s, but the collection has completely disappeared, unfortunately, and all we have are some grainy pictures. So there I sat over this and said, okay, let's redraw these maps so that we don't infringe any copyrights, and present it to people today. So that's how they would have envisioned it. And as you can see, Singapore is really part of this riverine network. Yeah? It is part of the upstream, downstream economy of the Johor mainland. Very much so. Yes?
I missed the first 10 minutes of your lecture. I'm curious to know when and how did you come across Jacques' books?
Like I said, I had it in my luggage when I came. And before I came to Singapore, I was actually working in Spain. I had just at the time secured a 2-year fellowship at the universities of Madrid and Salamanca. And then I said, okay, I'll take the job in Singapore instead. But I haven't, and it just sat on my library for the longest period of time.
And where was this manuscript? What was it doing from the time he wrote and by the time it surfaced in the...
We don't know. It has belonged to the National Library of Spain for a very long time. That's what they told me. They don't know how and when it came into their collection.
So nobody during that period ever thought of reading it in the 300, 400 year period.
It depends how these things are cataloged, And this is how things come up every now and then. You can find things simply project I'm doing has hand-colored paintings made by a German officer aboard one of the vessels of Malacca and Aceh and a couple of other places. Now, this is preserved in a voyage manuscript that is officially classified as a voyage Pernambuco. Pernambuco is in Brazil. Yes? So the voyage begins in Brazil, and whoever wrote the catalog entry didn't bother to read any further, that it actually goes to the Batavia. They just said, oh, it's Pernambuco. So it was always treated as a book about Brazil. These misclassifications, they're very, very common. Right? And catalog entries are strange things, and these small archives often are the ones that contain the most interesting things. The National Library in Spain has a lot of manuscripts, but nobody's bothered, And who wants to, even now in Spain, they're not shrugging their shoulders and like, oh, They're really interested in the Americas. Their legacy in Asia is very small, and there's not much interest in studying their legacy in Asia.
Because during that time, the Asia, Southeast Asia was primarily being traded by the Dutch.
Well, the Portuguese, but the Spanish are here too. They're in the Philippines, and they're trying to prop up the Portuguese Empire in the Moluccas because the Portuguese can't cope with the Dutch anymore. They don't know how to do it. They don't have the resources to do it. And so the Spanish are trying to pay all that, but then the Dutch eventually succeed in kicking both of them out.
So the Portuguese were earlier.
Yeah, Portuguese are here since the early 16th century. The Dutch come almost 100 years later. So Jacques is in Malacca just as the Dutch are arriving. They come in 1595. He arrives in 1593. So he's seeing the impact of how the new Dutch presence is completely and the English are completely transforming the way business is being done. Yeah, there's quite a few people yet.
Just a very brief question. You mentioned Indian trade textiles in the context of trade in the region. Does he go into any sort of specifics on the trade, types of textiles being traded?
You mean the names of the textiles?
The names of the textiles?
Oh yes, absolutely. They're in
The
my glossary.
prices?
I'd like to tell you I went through great pains to identify this, and I needed lots of help from professionals to do that as well. I went to various forums with online collectors and the British Museum just to identify these garbled Portuguese names of what they are. Yes, they're in there, and yes, most of them are listed in the glossary. And yes, he also tells what dyes they use to dye them.
Oh, that's...
So he knows his textiles. He's classified as a gem trader, but all the jewelers would also dabble in things like bezoar stones that were even more expensive than the jewels. So he's also dealing in those. He knows his way around, and he doesn't pay in cash. He barters them for textiles, so he knows his textiles.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. Have a look at the index. There was another question. I think you had a question. Yeah.
So, since you mentioned of Siam and Thailand, I thought, it's a pretty near country and kingdom, and it has a long literary tradition. Isn't there something that people like 400-500 years ago in Thai archive somewhere?
But not an eyewitness again. What do you mean? Oh, excuse me, I maybe have not understood. You mean Thai travelers coming here? Merchants are very bad about workers. And even to be honest with you, we wouldn't have this if the Portuguese hadn't been deported to Coutre, because this was his agenda. He's like, I gotta prove my innocence. I gotta do that. Otherwise, we would have nothing. Yeah? This is a really sad thing. Businessmen